Hello everyone and welcome back to Crosses Gaming. Today we're going to take a look at Cuphead. This classic gun and run game with heavy emphasis on boss battles promises the amazing visuals inspired by the classic cartoons of the 1930s, an equally amazing soundtrack from the same era combined with engaging modern mechanics. Whether it can deliver on that promise is the question we will try to answer today. Cuphead is available on Steam for €19.99 with a regional equivalent. Before we get into the review of the actual game, there is some history we should talk about first. Cuphead was originally presented to the public way back in January of 2014 and the developers were planning to release in the same year. Then on E3 2014, it was postponed to 2015, then into 2016, then into 2017. But now it's 2017 and we finally got our hands on Cuphead. And straight off the bat, I can say that the delays were probably warranted as the game is purely awesome. Oh, and there's one more thing I need to mention. Since my girlfriend isn't currently home, I haven't been able to use her to play co-op with me. So I haven't gotten to play co-op at all. Somewhat non-traditionally, we will start the review with a look at the game story. You play as Cuphead and Mugman. Well, you do in co-op. In single player you play just as Cuphead. Two brothers living on the magical England Isle who one day during their plays found themselves far from home in the Devil's Casino. Here, being unwise youngsters, they managed to lose their souls in a game of dice against the devil. Now, they are presented with a simple choice. They have to travel the Isle, collecting debts that are owed to the devil, otherwise he will claim their souls. And that nicely leads us into the gameplay. Your job in Cuphead is to fight bosses, and occasionally there will be a run and gun level thrown into the mix, but most of the time you will be purely fighting bosses. Altogether, there are 19 boss fights in this indie game, each with many phases and unique mechanics that you will need to master to even stand a chance against them. At its core, Cuphead may seem like a pretty simple game. You move to avoid incoming attacks and you shoot your weapon, well, a magical finger in this case, to deal damage. But as any Dark Souls player will tell you, moving and attacking can create one hell of a complicated and complex game if implemented correctly. So let's first take a look at an overview of the basic movement abilities you have, as there are essentially just three. Your basic movement, which is done by the cursor keys, or whatever keys you rebind it to, as everything is rebindable, a jump on the Z key, and a dash performed by the shift key. Or like me, you can choose to play Cuphead on a controller. I know I often say I don't play many games on a controller, but Cuphead just seems to control way easier when using one. At least it did for me once I changed the bindings even there a little bit. Probably the most interesting of these movement abilities is the jump, as whenever you see something pink on the screen and you jump towards it and then jump again as you're at it, it will give you a charge towards your super attack. But timing this in the midst of the fight, well, I will honestly say I've never even gave it a try because just focusing on avoiding taking damage and dealing some back was more than enough for me. Next, we should take a look at the tools you have at your disposal to deal damage. And again, there are three. Though depending on how you look at it, you might count just two. You start with your basic attack, which is you forming a gun shape with your hand and firing little bullets. Seriously, that's exactly what it is. And it's charming as hell. Then you have the ability to switch between the bullets that come from your hand. There is a decent number of them available, but first, you have to collect them through your journey on the Isle. And last, but certainly not least, you have your super attack. But before you can use it, it first needs to be charged either by attacking your foes, or, as previously mentioned, timing your jumps exactly on the pink things appearing on screen. There's one more thing that should be talked about when it comes to the combat. You guys know that I said that the vast majority of the game, apart from a few levels, are purely boss fights. But there are two kinds of boss encounters in Cuphead. Ones you'd pretty much expect. Just you as Cuphead fighting a boss character, or more or some of his goons. But there are also bosses which you must fight in an airplane. Yes, an airplane. At that point, how the game feels changes significantly as it resembles more of a shoot 'em up than anything else, sometimes even feeling like a bullet hell. And that's it for the basic things Cuphead provides you with. But it wouldn't be a game these days without an option to upgrade your character in some ways, so Cuphead provides exactly that option to you. Apart from the already mentioned choices for weapons, you can also collect charms, which will give you different benefits, like the one I like, that makes you invulnerable during a dash. Yay, it's more like Dark Souls! Or the one continuously charging your super attack, and many more. But you can have only one active at any given time, and to be honest, the one giving you immunity frames just seemed far superior to all the other. Maybe with the exception of the ones restoring your health in certain encounters, especially the ones that feel like a shoot 'em up. The way you acquire these charms is by collecting gold coins in the levels that aren't boss fights. The ones that are the classic run and gun kind of levels, which are probably the most generic part of Cuphead, as they feel like a pretty much run-of-the-mill platform level. But back to the charms. As you collect this gold, you can later use them to buy these charms in shops placed around the map. And that's pretty much it for the mechanics of Cuphead. And honestly, it's more than enough. The fights feel tough, but fair most of the time. There were times when I felt like Cuphead was a little bit unfair, but never it did feel like it was just completely unfair, like the bosses were just unbeatable without an upgrade or something like that. And even when the bosses feel extremely hard at times, they are just super fun, and that is the most important thing in the game. And to be completely honest, I'm pretty sure this game will be one of my personal top games of the year for year 2017. Now that we covered the gameplay aspects of Cuphead, it's time to take a look at the graphics. And well, they are just freaking awesome. Inspired by the cartoons from the 1930s period, by classics of rubber hose animation like Fleischer Studios or Disney, and just by looking at any given image from the game, you can see how much love, work, and dedication was put into making Cuphead. I mean seriously, every little detail again was hand-drawn and has amazing personality. Yeah, there are a few images that are a bit too much reminiscent of characters from the cartoons of old, especially I would say the Captain Boss, who reminds me from Bluto from Popeye, but in general you can say that 99% of the characters and images in Cuphead are amazing pieces of art. And Cuphead is precisely that graphically, a piece of art, and is exactly what you should use in arguments with people, whether video games are art or not. Then we have the music. Oh god, the music. Man, am I happy to get a game with great music after a few games with lackluster music, because in Cuphead the music is equally amazing as the visuals are. A completely original soundtrack made in the jazz style was created for Cuphead, and it fits the game perfectly. I'm not a music critic by any means, but I do know when I hear good music. The melodies themselves aren't really the thing I love the most about them. The thing I love the most are the lyrics. I mean seriously, just take a moment in game to listen to them, and you will feel amazed how amazingly funny they are whenever included. Well, it's time for the last part of the review, the performance of Cuphead. And as you'd expect, the game runs well. It's not particularly demanding. Just take a look at the minimum requirements. You can see that it requires a graphics card that is getting close to being 10 years old by this point. Even most cheap notebooks should be able to run Cuphead these days pretty well. I did experience one crash during playing though, but one crash isn't really an indicator of general instability, so I won't make any conclusions based on it, and neither should you. So, in conclusion, Cuphead is simply put amazing. Graphically, it's almost certainly the best looking 2D game of the year, the music fits the theme of the game amazingly, and then we have the gameplay. The gameplay is fun and hard and definitely worth the delays in development. The only potential issue for buyers may be the price. $20 isn't really that cheap, but I personally believe the game is more than worth the price. So unless you're really strapped for money right now, go and buy Cuphead. It's awesome. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you liked the review, and if you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. And comment if you had something you would like to add. See you guys later with more gaming content.